You're with Money FM 89.3. Get up to speed with all the news and information you need to confidently make the decisions for your business and personal finance with the Breakfast Huddle, Your Money, 12 to 1, the Afternoon Update, and Prime Time. Every weekday on Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. The Afternoon Update, only on Money FM 89.3.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Afternoon Update on Money FM 89.3. I'm Rachel Kelly. It is Friday the 23rd of September. Great to be with you on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube, as well as all of you who are joining us on your airwaves on Money FM 89.3 on your radio. Coming up this hour, we've got a great show lined up for you. We are going to be joined by the one and only Geoff Howie from the SGX, aren't we, Hongbin?
Yes, we are.
And we will also be joined by actor Adrian Pang. And if you've got any questions for either of them, we're kind of catching Geoff off guard here. Drop us a text, 88550893, or drop us your question in the comments box below. We will ask them later in the show. Now, Hongbin, have you ever tried pottery?
Pottery? No, I really do want to try it though.
I love it. I love it. I've been for a few pottery classes. I'm not very good, but there's something very therapeutic about the clay in your hands and making something, especially if you've had a really, really busy, hectic week. You know, just helps you to unwind and relax a little bit.
That may be like a good weekend plan.
Okay, yes. But this one's not for you because we do have a pair of tickets for a standard pottery class at Am I Addicted Studio. It's worth $160 for a listener on Monday. During our live social media session from 3 p.m. What you need to do is the best question will win this pottery class ticket. But to qualify, now this is a pottery class ticket for two as well, so you can bring a friend. To qualify, not only do you have to ask the best question, but you also have to share our social media post on Facebook. So join us online on Monday at 3 and stand a chance to win a pair of tickets for this pottery class at Am I Addicted Studio. And just to tell you a bit more about it, it's one of the biggest pottery studios in Singapore. It's aims to build a community created for and by like-minded creators. The classes are taught by professionals and friendly ceramists from Korea, Singapore, and Malaysia. It's also got a cafe attached to it, if I was reading that correctly. It's got a Korean vegan cafe attached to the pottery studio as well. So you can go and find out more at the website. It's www.amiaddicted.sg. Get all the details there. And don't forget to join us on Monday. Ask a question on our Facebook live stream. Share our post and you could stand the chance to win and have pottery weekend plans of your own next weekend. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the important stuff. This half hour, we're going to check in on the markets with Geoff Howie in Market View.
Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
Taking a look where Singapore shares are at the moment, currently in the red, down 1.14%. Geoff Howie, market strategist at the SGX, joins us now to help us digest all the latest market moves and all the events that have happened this week, and what a week it has been for markets, Geoff.
Yeah, it's been a big week, as usual, Rachel. When you look at the charts, it doesn't look like a lot has been happening because our STI market, it's still range bound between 3,300 and 3,200, and in fact spent the first 4 days of this week trading in a 30-point range. But today's intraday low so far, when I last checked, it was in the 3220s, and that takes the STI back to where it was about 2 weeks ago on the 8th of September. It also trims the year-to-date total return to around 7%, but still that compares to a decline of 17% for the FTSE Developed Index. In terms of flows and fund flows, we've seen about 30 million Sing dollars of net fund flows so far this week. And that brings total net fund flows for the month to around 600 million. So who's been dominating the net fund flows this week? It's the banks, DBS, OCBC and UOB, in addition to Singtel in addition to Yangzijiang Shipbuilding Holdings.
And you say DBS, and DBS was Hong Bin's pick for
Yes.
stock of the week to watch.
Yeah,
How did
it
the
is,
rest of the
right?
banks fare?
Well, look, DBS has I think fared okay this week. I think Hongbin can update. Last I checked, when I came downstairs, it was down 0.5% so far this week. It was trading at around $33.38 thereabouts. That's pretty defensive when you consider globally banks are down something like more than 2%. I think down 2.3%. And then for you, Rachel, AIMS APAC.
APAC REIT,
Yeah,
yes.
that's down 2% this week, but still more defensive than global REITs, which are down 4%. So interest rate projections, interest rate changes, interest rate narratives have really set the rhythm of the stock market this week. So banks have been among not really the stronger performance, but more in the middle of the leaderboard. But REITs have been at the lower end of the REIT leaderboard so far this week.
And I was checking out your sector heat map on the SGX website as well, Geoff, to kind of give me an indication of which sector I should look at or which counter I should be watching this week. And you've got education up 2.7%, arts and entertainment in the green up 0.16%, mining as well up 1.4%. But looking at some of those sectors that are a little bit more in the red, professional is down 2.2% as well. Accommodation down 1.03% if we're talking about REITs, and property, real estate activity down 0.9%. I love this heat map.
Yeah, well, this is the thing with our stock market. While I said the STI hasn't really moved a great deal so far this week, I think it's declined 0.9%. You have so much movement within the index. So Yangzijiang Shipbuilding is up 14% this week to around $1.17. Whereas on the other side, you have decliners that are down some more around 5% thereabouts. So you almost have a 20% differential between the top performer and the least performer just in the 30 stocks that make up the STI alone. So there's as you know, Rachel, so many uneven factors in terms of the economic drivers that are really setting the tone for so many markets, and all these moves are sort of measured, if you will, over all the various segments and sectors.
And Geoff, I want to ask you about today's inflation numbers that were out a couple hours ago. Were they in line with your expectations? It came in to a new high.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? Both core and headline and the month on month. I mean, I think they were. I think the core was very much in line, closer to expectations than the headline. For the headline, I think if I'm not wrong, it's up 0.9% month on month. That's kind of in tune with what we've been seeing over the last 12 months. If you look over the last 12 months, we've had 4 prints of 1% or greater month on month expansions. So I think that's very much in line with what we're seeing across the world at the moment.
Have markets responded to these numbers yet, or are we still waiting for investors to take them in?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have been responding to it because effectively what you've got with the Fed Reserve, as we saw this week, is a very staunch, strong stance. They won't, it's almost ever since Jackson Hole, it was the end of August. So for this entire month, the Fed Reserve has not given an inch. Basically, they are saying we're going to stay hawkish until we really get this inflation back towards a sustained path to 2%. So even if they think that they might be able to pull back a little next year, they're not going to signal it because the thesis that the Fed chair is running is that expectations of inflation actually do fuel inflation. So this is a paradigm we're seeing across the world, and hence we we haven't this is the trend, and we haven't seen it. We weren't expecting the trend to really start bucking and moving backwards or reverting too much at this stage. It's more next year where we have these projections where inflation starts to come back. So markets haven't moved greatly according to that number.
So, Geoff, what are you going to be watching out for in the week ahead? We've had so much data out this week. It's going to take a while to digest all of that as we move into next week as well.
Yeah, we have. So back to that Fed narrative. We have Jerome Powell speaking tonight at 2 a.m. for the Fed Listens. I think he's doing the opening speech for the Fed Listens event. Then we have a couple of Fed speakers next week as well. We don't have any G7 monetary policy meetings, but we do have the Bank of Thailand. We have the RBI meeting next week. We do have manufacturing gauges at the end of the week for China. And we also have a prelim September CPI number for Europe. And also Vietnam will be the first of all the countries across the world to start providing some insight into how their prelim third quarter GDP numbers look at. But for Singapore, I think the big one will be Monday at 1 p.m. It'll be industrial production numbers. And this is pretty important because industrial production, you remember, back in 2020, it was quite resilient. It was up 7% in 2020. Then it surged ahead in 2021, up 13% year on year. And then so far for the first 7 months of this year, it's gained 5% or expanded 5% year on year. We expect for the report coming out that August's IP will be down 0.5% year on year, but up on a month-on-month basis. Now, what's happened with these numbers is that electronics has been declining. And pharmaceuticals as well for the previous month. So the broader manufacturing clusters, if you will, which are transport engineering, chemicals, precision engineering, and of course general manufacturing, those four clusters actually expanded in the previous month, but electronics is what we'll be watching very closely. And, markets as well, because markets are very forward-looking, if you will. As I sort of relayed those IP numbers, if you can picture our IAG SG Advanced Manufacturing Index, which has over 100 constituents across all these clusters, it actually performed pretty well back in 2020, more than 20% total return. But then last year was quite flat, up 2% on anticipation of what was happening this year. And again, this year, it's just down 2%, that index. But at the moment, transport engineering has been leading it.
And just on from that, Geoff, I'm going to give you my stock for the week. Since you mentioned transport, the stock that I'm going to be watching this week is Comfort Delgro.
Oh, very good.
Okay, so we'll see how it goes in the week ahead. What about you, Hong Bin?
I'll be tracking Trace Together token maker iWow technology after, they've inked a deal for a potential 18 million.
Where are they today? Their stock is what? 4.4%.
They're in the green, I believe.
Higher. I think it was 4.5% higher, if I'm not wrong, last I saw. Okay, well, Geoff, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today to break down all the latest market moves and news. The one and only Geoff Howie, market strategist at the SGX.
Thank you.
Thanks, Geoff. Have a good weekend. Now, coming up on the show, we are going to be joined very soon, in fact, in just a few seconds, by Adrian Pang. Stay with us here on Money FM 89.3.
This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Keeping you company through your workday. Money FM 89.3. The View on Money FM 89.3.
You are listening to Money FM 89.3. Now, it's been touted as one of the most successful Singaporean shows of all time. I am talking about the LKY musical, and Raushan in the studio went to see it recently, and he has not stopped talking about it. In fact, so much so that we decided to reach out to one of the main actors for the show to join us, and I'm very happy to say that he very kindly agreed to join us on the show today to tell us more about it. We are joined now by actor Adrian Pang. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, ladies. How's it going?
Good to have you with us. Adrian, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us this Friday.
My pleasure. We're halfway through the run, and there's still a lot of curiosity about the show. Amazingly, some people still haven't heard of it. I mean, there's in my world, there's just been no escaping it over the last few months. But I'm happy to talk about it with you lovely ladies.
Definitely in our world as well, we haven't escaped it for the last few weeks because Raushan hasn't stopped talking about it. He absolutely loved it. So, yes, want to find out more. So perhaps we can start there. Maybe you can tell us more about the story behind the musical.
Well, in a nutshell, even though the show is called the LKY musical, really it is a story about how modern Singapore came to be. It traces the history of Singapore from 1942 till 1965 when we achieved independence. So it's really the story of how Singapore became Singapore as seen through the eyes and as lived through the experience of this one man, and as well as the significant individuals who were instrumental in creating modern Singapore, told through song and dance, no less.
And when you say this one man, it's not just any man. We are talking about Lee Kuan Yew. What was it like preparing for such a role?
It was intimidating to say the least. This is the second run of this show. We first did it in 2015, and I remember having an absolute nightmare time that first time around, because every single day in rehearsal was just filled with all kinds of surprises and booby traps. Because just figuring out what story we were trying to tell in the first place was a scary proposition, let alone attempting to step into the shoes of this man. And needless to say, the man Lee Kuan Yew is he's more mythical and legendary than human to most of us, and also he's obviously a very polarizing character. So it was quite a frightening prospect to even tackle. And there
How
were
did
many
you?
moments in the journey the first time around when I thought to myself, what the heck am I doing? But we survived it. And so 7 years along, the producers have decided to restage it. And I think, quite timely as well, because the last 2.5 years has been for everyone. And all of us as Singaporeans, such a tricky time. It's been really almost like a process of a rebirth. So to relook at this story of the birth of Singapore, I think it's quite timely. So it's been interesting for me certainly to revisit the story at this time.
And that said, what else have you then brought to this production now that it's in this second run? What's changed for you? As you mentioned, it's been a very difficult last 2 years for many. It's been a very evolutionary year for many, 2 years for many. How has that changed the way that you're approaching this role?
I have been approaching this rerun of it almost as if I'm doing it for the very first time, because I certainly never wanted to revisit something that was just a mere rehash of something I'd done before. I just don't believe in that. And so I took this as an opportunity to look at this story with fresh eyes and try and immerse myself in the story anew, just so that I could discover fresh new perspectives on the story, on the man, on the journey that we as Singaporeans have gone through in the last 57 years. And it's just partly also from my own journey over the last 2.5 years of the pandemic, and having gone through my own weird adventure over the pandemic, and I'm still trying to navigate myself out of it. It's been a journey of self-discovery, if nothing else. And as I said, I think it's a very timely story for all of us to be reminded of, just to suppose, remind ourselves and remind one another of all the things that we have to be grateful for, and to not be complacent, and to just keep on building on what we have.
That very, very, very wise words there, Adrian. And just remind us, so this is on now until the 3rd of October?
It is until well, I'm doing it till the 2nd of October. I don't know if anybody else is on till the 3rd. They'll have to do it without me.
And it's on at the Sands Theatre, isn't it, at MBS?
Yes, it is. It's on at the Sands Theatre until next Sunday. Tickets have been selling like hotcakes, and every run of the show that we've been doing has been a privilege. I'm treasuring this chance to tell this story, and I hope people get a lot out of it from coming to see the show.
Wonderful. Well, Adrian, we've got a question that's come in from Geoff. He was just on the show breaking down the latest market moves for us. Hongbin, what did Geoff want to know?
So he asked, please ask Adrian how I can keep my kids interested in drama. He went to the LKY musical this week and absolutely loved it, but he is now 15 and more absorbed in schoolwork and has lost a bit of passion and confidence due to the heavy workload. So he's asking for you for any tips on keeping the fire burning for Sam, who would be appreciated, because he now is considering leaving center stage and thinking he can't do this for a career anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay. In all honesty, hand on my heart, I have to be very candid about this, and any advice. I usually try to not give any advice to anyone, because I wouldn't take advice from myself. But I do honestly feel that anyone considering going into this insane profession should only do it if this is the only thing they can see themselves doing. Because it's a very unforgiving profession. There is no justice to it. There is no fairness to it. There's no logic to it, and everybody really has to just carve out their own path. No two journeys are the same, and it can wear you down. And I've certainly have been worn down many times myself. But this is the only thing that I can do. This is the only thing that I want to do, and the only thing I love enough to just fight through any kind of hardship, just for the privilege of being able to keep on doing. So if you love it enough, do it. But if you don't love it anywhere close to as much as that, then there must be something else in your life that you love enough, that you are reasonably okay at doing, and also can earn a decent enough living. If you can tick these 3 boxes in anything in your life, then you're one of the lucky ones.
We've got another question that's come in from a listener, and this is from Little Hitsuji, and she says, every time your company puts up a show, do you wonder if it will sell? And she says, by the way, I love all of your shows. Big fan.
Very kind. Nothing is a sure thing. There isn't any production that we stage that we feel is a sure bet. Every show is a gamble. Every show is something that we feel we need to take a little bit of a risk. I honestly do feel that the last 2.5 years of the pandemic has reconditioned all of us, to retrain our brains as to how we consume things. Movies, TV, music, and especially from my perspective, live performances. It's almost like we have to find ways to get people to get excited all over again about coming to the theatre. So it's going to be a huge challenge moving ahead. And while certainly as Pandemonium we have in the last 12 years built up a steady, loyal following. We can never be complacent about that. And especially now, moving on ahead after we've spent the last 2.5 years kind of languishing, we feel that the challenges ahead are going to be very, very real indeed. And we're going to be fighting tooth and nail to get people to come back to the theater all over again.
Adrian, there's just so much more that we wanted to ask you, and we've got so many questions that have come in from our listeners, our viewers on social media as well. But we've run out of time. But there's just one question I wanted to ask you very quickly, since you are on Money FM 89.3. Do you have one money tip or one money hack that you found over the years that you'd like to share with us?
Well, as I said earlier, and this is a disclaimer, I wouldn't take any advice from myself. So any money advice is probably even more dicey. But I think from my early days as a young actor, and we're talking in a long time ago, I have kind of trained myself or conditioned myself to live pretty frugally, and I don't know. Some might say tight-fistedly, and I think if there's anything to be learned is that a sense of moderation, a sense of balance, and also a sense of every once so often kind of rewarding yourself with something small and significant but material is not a bad thing at all. And I learned this from some years ago when I was going through a difficult period, and confessional. Yeah, I went to see a therapist at the time, and she said, one of the reasons you're in such a state at the moment is that you need to reward yourself. So even if it's going out to buy a small little item just as a personal reward for yourself, is not a bad thing. It's not being extravagant. It's basically giving yourself some kind of a pat on the back to say, hey, you deserve this, and it's not a bad thing. And I'm speaking all this just because I'm a dad. I have a family. I've tried to be smart with my money through the years, and save up for a rainy day and all that kind of thing. And there've been many rainy days. But once in a while, just a little bit of something just for yourself, it's not a bad thing. I don't know if that's worth anything to anyone, but there you go.
I'm going to treat myself this weekend. Well, Adrian, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bless you, ladies. Thanks very much for having me on. Take care.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Adrian Pang on Money FM 89.3.
The Afternoon Update brings you the latest news and views to keep you informed. Tune in Monday to Friday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. only on Money FM 89.3.
Boss, here my mobile phone